Hi, y'all, and welcome to tonight's live stream. Well, we're going to be a little bit more laid back than usual tonight. We are going to have a Friday weekends here kind of a show tonight. We're going to start with a quick recap of day 4 in the Karen Reed case. The trial, as you know, is going on this week. Plus, we will have the grand finale of our green chili chicken enchiladas contest. So it's just going to be a kind of fun, laid back show. Thank you for being with us here tonight and welcome. We are going to start with the Karen Reed trial. And if you watched the trial today, you may have been thinking, well, gee, not much happened today. It was kind of dull, but don't be fooled. It was only a half day, but 2 critically important things happened. We're going to be talking about that tonight. And then it may seem like it was a lot of background work, kind of quiet, but it's the kind of thing that shapes what the jury thinks. It is going to play a significant role in ultimately what they're going to decide in the case. And so tonight we're going to walk through what they saw, what happened today. And tonight, like I said, the grand finale of our enchiladas contest with a special guest appearance. And you'll see the actual taste test by Adam Cox himself. So we will be announcing the winner, and we'll have a special note sent in by the winner that we will read. So we will do both of those things tonight. So let me make sure, I forgot to double check that everything is good to go on the sound. Hopefully it is. I don't see any complaints. Hopefully I got that straight. All right, so special shout out to our first 5 in the chat tonight: Bama Queen, Michelle B., Shiro Sheen, Camilla Juliana, and Lindsay Gandy. And I want to start with our recap. There were 3 things that happened, 2 of which are critical, just absolutely critical to the case. We're going to start with what I think is the most important, and then we're going to show you some clips related to the others. So the most important, in my opinion, was the blood alcohol level that came in, or the alcohol test that came in. So Karen Reed was taken to the hospital, to Good Samaritan Hospital, after she was found, her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, lying in a snowbank outside 34 Fairview. The reason she was taken to the hospital was for a psychiatric hold. They said she had threatened to unalive herself, and they wanted to make sure she was okay. So they took her there for a psychiatric hold. It was a matter of just a few hours, and she was released that afternoon. So while she was at the hospital, they drew blood. And she, at no point that I've heard, has mentioned having anything to drink that morning. And they drew blood at 9:03 in the morning. So presumably it had been 9 hours since she had had a drink, because the last alcohol she would have had would have been at the Waterfall Bar. They left there when it shut down at midnight, so roughly midnight, and now this was being drawn at 9:03 in the morning. So it is possible that she had something to drink that morning, but that's not in evidence. And if it remains the same as at the last trial, there's not going to be evidence of that. So when they tested the blood that morning, we learned from the witness that the result was 0.093. Now, nobody has explained that to the jury yet. But here's what another witness is going to tell the jury: that under Massachusetts law, 0.08 is legally intoxicated. Karen Reed was higher at 0.093. So to put it in numbers that are maybe a little easier to understand, think of it as legally intoxicated would be 80, and Karen Reed was at 93. But it was a different sort of a test, and that's where the defense cross-examination came in. So it was above the legally intoxicated level 9 hours after she took the drink. But the defense had some really important cross-examination. I don't know if the jury fully got this and understood it. Good Samaritan used a serum alcohol test. That's where they test just the liquid part of the blood. They remove the blood cells, test only the liquid. That's completely fine for medical purposes. And that's why they were testing it. They weren't testing it because they were looking to see whether or not she had committed a crime or whether she was legally intoxicated. They just wanted to know, is there anything that we need to know medically? And that's completely a fine test for that purpose. But typically, if you're going to do a test for legal purposes, you would do a whole blood alcohol test, different from the serum alcohol test that Good Samaritan did. That would measure the alcohol in the cells as well as the plasma together. And you get a better, a clearer result with that. And the reason you do that is you really want that accurate number for legal purposes. So serum levels tend to be higher, 15% to 20% higher than whole blood levels. So the kind of test she had would be 15 to 20% higher than if it had been done with a blood serum level. And that's because the alcohol concentrates more in the plasma that gets tested and less in the red blood cells. So if you put both of them in, you get an average and it's a little bit lower. So obviously it is not in Karen Reed's best interest to have an artificially inflated level because a serum test was used. Now, typically the lab will apply a correction factor and they will estimate the blood alcohol level from the serum test as it would have been if they had done a whole blood level. So a whole blood test. I don't know whether the number that the 0.093, I don't know whether that is a final number or not. If the factor has been applied, we'll hear that from another witness. But here's what the defense is arguing. The defense is arguing this is too high. And furthermore, it's too high. They suggested maybe because of Karen Reed's MS, maybe for other factors unique to her medically. I don't know if they made any progress on that. The witness didn't really support them on the MS. He didn't have specific knowledge about that, but they may well be able to reduce it. The problem with this evidence, though, is that even if they reduce it by 20%, and for reasons that are related to the way the test was done, it's still 9 hours after she took her last drink. And that's what the Commonwealth is going to focus on. And that's why the fact that, remember yesterday's testimony, they ended with those clips we looked at last night with the blood alcohol, and we went through clips 7 through 11, where she talked to various media during interviews about that blood alcohol. That is exactly where the Commonwealth is going to go. They're going to say, reduce it by 20%. It's 9 hours later, and she admitted she was drinking. She admitted she had multiple shots. In fact, she was pouring shots into her drinks because they weren't strong enough. And that is where the Commonwealth case will rest. Now, Karen Reed's team is arguing here that this is an artificial test. It's artificially high because of the way you did the test and also because of her medical conditions. So that's not a fair result. But that's going to be obviously a huge issue in the case if she was drinking or not. So let's take a look at a couple of other super important things that happened today. The biggest being the jury field trip, because the jury actually went to the scene where they saw not just the scene, the house, the lawn where John O'Keefe's body was found, the flagpole. They also saw the Lexus vehicle. They had taken it there for them to see. So they were able to see the Lexus vehicle. So the judge warned them, okay, it's going to be missing that tail light. We took that out, or they took that out for testing and other purposes. The lawyers all went on this view with the jury. And I want to say too, I realize that if you follow cases on YouTube, you are probably going to be under the impression that there's a jury view in every case. Let me just say that is really, really not the case. That is super unusual. I remember one case, all we wanted was for the jury to see a vehicle. It was a burned out vehicle. Someone had died in the vehicle, had its fuel tanks on the outside of the frame rails. It was a product liability case. And all we wanted was for them to see the vehicle. So the place we could get it into the courthouse was down where the loading docks were down. And it was a huge deal getting the judge to agree that the jury could take the elevator down to see the car that had been brought into the courthouse. So it's not usual. It's a lot of trouble. It's expensive. If you were listening today, you may have actually heard them swear in the officers who went and took the jury. So it's a production. And It is not something that judges easily give out, but you will see it a lot in the cases that we follow because they are so important and being followed so closely. Would you mind hitting the like button on the video? It would really help with the YouTube algorithm, and I would appreciate it. Also, don't forget to subscribe. We would like to have you back. So both sides had a lot that they wanted the jury to see when they went to the scene, and the judge allowed both sides to address the jurors before they left. And they were able to say to the jury, here's what specifically I want you to look for. You're going out to the scene, look for this. And it's fascinating to hear what it is that they wanted. Let's hear that.
So the view is to help you better understand the evidence, which you'll hear during the course of the trial, and to help you appreciate the location and its surroundings. So the view that we're going on is part of the case, and it means that the observations that you make there can be used and considered by you in your deliberations on this case in reaching a verdict. So we're going to, you've heard 34 Fairview Road in Canton. The lawyers and I will accompany you. For the Commonwealth, we'll be accompanied by Attorney Brennan, and ADA Lally, ADA Schillinger, and for the defense, Attorney Yannetti and Attorney Little. The best way to summarize a view is that your job is to simply stop and look. It's really no more complicated than that. So your responsibility is to see the place, observe it carefully, and to remember what you see. Now, during the trip to and from the view, and while at the view, you're not to discuss this case or anything about it with other jurors. We'll be accompanied by court officers who will direct you.
So I saw in the chat Miss T asking, why would the judge let them have a special scene view in this case if it's kind of uncommon and not very often done? Why allow it here? And I think you will hear both sides give the argument that they would have made to the judge about why this would be useful. And we'll start with the Commonwealth and what the Commonwealth told the jury they wanted the jury to look for when they went to the scene.
Pay attention to the street, the front yard.
Audio's not great.
And you'll see to the left side of the front yard in the corner.
It gets better.
Car, it's the Lexus that we've spoken about, the defendant's Lexus. And you'll also see a flagpole and a fire hydrant. And so I'd ask you to take a look from different vantage points. Take a look from that area where the flagpole is, from where the fire hydrant is. And you'll see on the street before the grass is a little berm, concrete that comes up a little bit. Also, I'd ask you to make a note on the Lexus about the height of the bumper. I'd ask you to make note of the height of the right rear railing. And I'd also ask you to take note of, on the top of the hatchback, there's a part that protrudes. I'd ask you to take a look at that as well.
Okay, let's stop there. I know the sound is not great. When the lawyers leave the places where they normally are and come over and literally address the jury, there's not a great microphone system there. And so particularly Hank Brennan, the prosecutor, really is hard to hear when he's over there. So essentially what he said was, I want you to look at the vehicle. He said, yes, look at where the fire pole is and the flagpole and the fire hydrant. Take a look at that. And you'll see he wanted them to notice this little firm concrete that comes up because their belief is that that's where John O'Keefe hit his head. And then ask him to look at the Lexus. Look at how high the right rear tail is. Look at where the top of the hatch is, and look specifically at something up there. The reason those things are really important for the prosecution is they're trying to explain how John O'Keefe got these 4 parallel looking scratch marks, deep ones, or reasonably deep, on his arm. And the two sides have wildly different views of how that happened. The prosecution is saying, yeah, that came from the car. So look carefully at the car. You're going to see how it could happen by looking at the car. Karen Reed's team says that's ridiculous. It couldn't possibly have happened with the car. Instead, it happened inside the house when he was attacked. John O'Keefe was attacked by maybe the dog, definitely by people inside the house, and then dragged outside and left to die in the snow out there. That's what happened. It's not that Karen Reed hit him with her car. So that's what, so the prosecution wants to focus on the car, the rear of the car, all the places where it could have hit him. And now hear what the defense is asking the jury to pay attention to.
No substitute for your own two eyes. As we all know, photos and videos sometimes can be misleading in terms of relative distances, depending upon the perspective from which the photo is taken. But your eyes are the best computer that you could bring to the view. When we get to 34 Fairview, we will be pointing out certain things that we'd like you to observe. The house, the second floor window to that house, the 3 front doors in the front of the house, the driveway, the street, the front lawn, and the flagpole. And we'll be asking you specifically to consider the distance between that second floor front window and the front lawn. The distance between the front doors to the house and that front lawn. The distance between the driveway to the front lawn. And we'll be asking you to take a good look at that Lexus. Just stand next to it. To size it up, to take it in. You were all selected as jurors because the parties entrusted that you would do a proper investigation of this case within this courtroom. On behalf of Ms. Reed, we have every confidence that you will do a proper investigation.
Did she make any?
Okay, let's go ahead and stop it and pull it out for just a second. So I thought it was particularly entertaining that Yannetti made, and he was the defense lawyer you just heard, he really made a point of actually using this to communicate with the jury, not just to set out some facts, but to sort of say, he reintroduced himself and he sort of spoke to them. They are really focused on the path between where the vehicle was and the front of the house, because they believe, the defense does, that the steps show on his watch show that he walked into the house, that he went up the steps there. The distances, they believe, are in their favor. And so they want the jury to focus on that, where everything was, the doors, the window where people said they were looking out, and they kept looking at right where the vehicle was, and never did they see John O'Keefe's body fallen in the snow. So that is going to be really important, because the jury is going to be seeing what actually everything looks like. And it will make a significant difference just to be able to see it, to get a gauge of how far things are, to see the vehicle, how tall is it. Those will all be important to them as they look forward to what the testimony is going to be. The last piece of information that came in, and this was, I thought, kind of ridiculously long the way it played out at the trial today. There was a firefighter who talked about just really one important thing. He was an EMT who arrived on scene, and he had this to say about what Karen Reed said to him.
Statements to you when you were giving her treatment or speaking to her about her husband.
Objection.
I'll allow that. It came in.
One of the reasons why she was saying stuff is because the last conversation she had with her husband at the time was an argument. I didn't feel like it was my role to really find out the details on what was said, but that's what she said to me.
That the last thing she said to him was an argument?
Objection.
Yep.
Sustained.
Did she tell you what the argument was about?
She did not.
All right, let's pull that out and let's talk a little bit more. So now, the reason this matters at all is that the Commonwealth says that Karen Reed and John O'Keefe were fighting, and that the text messages show she was angry with him. Well, at the first trial, that mattered a lot more, because they were insinuating that Karen Reed more or less intentionally mowed down John O'Keefe because she was angry. But this time around, they are not arguing that. And they made a point of saying in opening statements that they do not contend and don't have to prove that she intentionally hit John O'Keefe with her car. All they have to prove is that she intentionally drove and that she hit him and killed him with her car. They don't have to prove she intended to hit him. So it's sort of a different deal this time. I don't know that it really mattered all that much. Excuse me. If it matters if she was drunk, it matters if she hit him, but I'm not so sure if it matters that they were fighting as their last words. But the defense spent a significant amount of time cross-examining for not, frankly, a whole lot of reason, I didn't think. And this is what you're about to hear is about the best they got out of it. It wasn't a lot. Give it just a second.
You previously indicated on direct examination that, I think your words were, that Ms. Reed indicated that her last conversation she had with her husband was an argument, correct?
Correct.
You've previously testified about that statement in other particulars, right? Other hearings.
I have.
You're paraphrasing. You didn't write down what she said about her previous interactions with Mr. O'Keefe, and you didn't record those on a tape recorder, correct?
I wrote down in my report that she said she had an argument.
Right.
So
So
did
that
you
was
see
about
me
all
at-
they got. Let's go ahead and stop because I want to save, obviously, the Lori Vallow thing, so it'll be separate. So let's talk a little bit more about that and about why that's important. I think they made a bigger deal of it than it was. I think there was some evidence from the text messages they read that there was a fight going on between Karen Reed and John O'Keefe, but I don't think it's going to be significant in terms of how it plays out in this case. So I want to say Michael Lalonde is telling me he's having blood drawn next Wednesday. I'm sorry to hear that. I guess Karen Reed can relate to you since that happened to her as well. Bethany, thank you so much for gifting Lawyer Lee memberships. If you're not a member, you can hit the join button down there beside Lawyer Lee directly below this video. If you are on your iPhone, you'll need to go in through your browser or use your computer instead. It doesn't work on the iPhone. We don't have the join button. But thank you. And we are having a great time with our members. I appreciate your gifting that. M. Meyer is telling me they're going to find an espresso martini. Isn't that a contradiction in terms, an espresso martini? But I hope you have a great evening, M. Meyer. Jeremy has gifted 50 Lawyer Lee memberships. Thank you so much. We will have a lot of fun with that. We are writing a true crime novel. It has proven to be quite the task. We have a lot of very creative people here in our community. So thank you, Jeremy. I really appreciate that. And if you haven't turned on your ability to receive a gifted membership, there's something or another you have to do to turn that on. And Mama Pinks and Marlon are two fantastic mods. We'll put that in the chat so you will know how to turn that on. You may be one of the randomly selected by YouTube people to win one of Jeremy's or one of Bethany's gifted Lawyer Lee memberships. So thank you so much to both of them. And look, we've already got a new member. Jamie is a new member. Welcome. We are glad to have you as part of our crew. All right. So we are going to switch gears here. That's what happened in the Karen Reed case today. But I want to talk about the green chili chicken enchiladas contest. Perfect Friday evening, heading into your weekend kind of thing. Now, why are we doing this chicken enchiladas contest? You may be wondering. Well, it actually is directly related to a case we just finished covering, the Lori Vallow Daybell case. It's not just one. I've covered this case 3 times. Lori Vallow Daybell was initially tried and convicted of murdering her children, Tylee, age 16, JJ, age 7, and of conspiring to murder Tammy Daybell, the wife of Chad Daybell. Lori Vallow married Chad just 2 weeks after his wife, Tammy, died. Then we covered Chad Daybell's case. Now, Lori was sentenced to life in prison sentences. She was not subject to the death penalty for reasons that are complicated, but related to discovery in the case. And then Chad Daybell, her husband, was convicted, same charges, and also convicted of the murder of Tammy Daybell. He was given the death penalty. That case, of course, is still ongoing in terms of appeals. Both of them are really, in terms of the appeal process, it's not that long ago. But for Chad Daybell, that would be a long, long process because it was a death penalty conviction. Then we had the third trial. Lori Vallow Daybell was also accused of conspiring with her brother Alex to murder her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. He was killed, and she immediately moved to Idaho, where Chad Daybell was, and they married as soon as his wife died. One of the craziest things about this case that we just covered is that Lori Vallow Daybell actually represented herself. Not only is that rare in general, because our system offers you a free lawyer, why would you not take the system up on that? But also, even more significantly, it's really, really rare in a case with stakes like this one. Conspiracy to murder, obviously very serious allegations, and she represented herself. It was definitely a wild trial, and one of the most interesting parts of it was watching her do the cross-examinations, and she was actually cross-examining her own brother, Adam Cox, not Alex, not the one she was accused of conspiring to murder with, but her brother, Adam Cox. Adam had been, according to the testimony that came out at trial, working with her husband, Charles Vallow, trying to stage an intervention to snap her out of this behavior that she was involved in, to try to snap her out of the over-religiosity that they were seeing caused her ultimately to believe that the people around her were filled with evil spirits and were becoming zombies, were no longer actually human, but were possessed by the evil spirits. So all of that was part of the trial. If you have not watched the trial, go back and watch my day-to-day coverage of it. You would be absolutely fascinated to watch this. Definite weekend activity. But there was a moment in time when she was cross-examining her brother, Adam Cox. Now, there are multiple things that she could be cross-examining him on and that she might be really upset with him over. You can imagine. I mean, after all, he's working with her fourth husband to try to get her temple recommend taken away because they think maybe they could get her to snap out of it. He's working with her husband. He's in town to work with her husband to try to have an intervention with her, to try to do something about her behavior and the direction she's going. So there are a lot of reasons why she might be upset with him. She hasn't seen him in years, as the two established during this cross-examination. But what bothered her the most, that you are about to see.
Right.
So, did you see me at Colby's wedding in January 2018?
No, I was not there.
You didn't come to Colby's wedding.
No, I did not.
So, did you see me sometime that year at my house
Possibly.
where Colby got married? That house.
I did see you at that house, yes.
At least one time.
Yes.
So, possibly in 2018.
Yes.
And when was the last time we had any communications?
The last time I remember our communications was you and I were speaking in the kitchen when the family was over.
Okay. So, you think that was that time in 2018?
I think so.
Okay. And were we eating my green chili chicken enchiladas?
Do not remember that.
You do not remember that?
Nope.
Is that what I made every time we had a family get together, which was like 10 times a year?
I don't remember that.
So our conclusion was, my conclusion anyway, was chicken enchiladas are like a really important sacred thing. Just what would make chicken enchiladas memorable enough to get Adam Cox's attention? Apparently, it wasn't Lori's, and that upset her to no end. So I said, well, let's reach out. We are the group to do this, not me, because I can't cook at all. But you would be the people to come up with the recipe that maybe would be more memorable. Chicken enchiladas deserve that. And we got 16 amazing recipes. Well, maybe I should say 15, and then there was Imelda's. We'll talk about Imelda's a little bit separately. So after I said, send me your chicken enchilada recipes, I got a note from Kimberly from the Jury Duty podcast. Now, you're going to meet Kimberly and her co-host, Lindsay, in just a minute. and they did a video for us. So you'll see that. I think I saw Lindsay in the chat, and probably Kimberly is here too. So if you see them in the chat, shower them with love and appreciation. Okay, so our group voted and picked 3 finalists. I divided it randomly, just in the order that they came to me, the first 5, and then the second 5, and then the third 5. It was over on Substack, and they only let you have 5 per poll. So you voted and picked 3 winners, 1 out of each 5 recipes. And Kimberly from the Jury Duty podcast then made those. She also is the producer, I think, for Adam Cox's podcast. He is on the Silver Linings podcast with Lori's Uncle Rex. So Kimberly made the enchiladas and shipped them on dry ice to Adam for the actual taste test, which you are going to witness tonight. They videoed that for us. You are going to see Adam Cox himself taste testing. So this will be absolutely definitive. Can we make some memorable chicken enchiladas? And maybe he couldn't remember those, but surely he is going to remember y'all's. So I want to tell you who the 15 contestants were, because they all deserve great praise. And frankly, for a lot of them, I came up with names for these, and a lot of who won probably had to do with my naming, and is not a fair representation at all of the recipes. So just to be honest about that. So the recipes that came in were Julia's Taco Bout Justice enchiladas, Christie's habeas tortillas, Bev's I'm Not That Bev enchiladas, Nancy's Voir dire verde, Elena's Contempt of Queso enchiladas, Tanya's Pluck It First enchiladas. I did that one because her recipe actually said use the chicken plucked. And I was like, dang, I have a hard time microwaving, and she's plucking her own chickens. This woman is amazing. Stephanie's verdict is enchilada. Jan's Tortilla the Hun enchilada. Renee's ex parte pepper jack enchiladas. Jim's and Carol's, they actually have a cooking blog, enchiladas. Trudy's Truth or I Dare You enchiladas. Marilee's No Objections Here enchiladas. Victoria's Possession is 9/10 of the sauce enchiladas. AJ's Lori's Zombies Are Everywhere enchiladas. And let me give AJ some extra special mention too, because that had all kinds of hilarious stuff all the way through the recipe. It was a really good one. And last contestant is Patty's Tortilla Supreme enchiladas. But let me stop and read Imelda's Not for the Faint of Heart recipe for, is what I called it. So this is actually an old family recipe of Imelda's. It was originally made by her great, great, great uncle, Willie Shakespeare. And this is how Imelda says that he wrote it. Double, double toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Fillet of a finny snake in the cauldron boil and bake. Eye of newt and toe of frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog. Adder's fork and blind worm's sting, lizard's leg and howlet's wing. For a charm of powerful trouble, like a hell broth, boil and bubble. Double, double toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Cool it with a baboon's blood, then the charm is firm and good. Now, Imelda believed this might have been Lori's original recipe, but we don't have any way to know that or confirm it. She does say you should serve it with white rice on the side. This was, I'm sorry, we did have to disqualify Imelda's recipe for a couple of reasons. One was the health of our taste tester. The other was just the difficulty of sourcing some of the ingredients. That was going to be hard for Kimberly to find, things like the finny snake and the wool of bat. So we were not sure that we really were able to include that. So what we had instead was the other 15. And we had 3 finalists. Nancy's Voir dire verde, Jim's and Carol's, they actually have a cooking blog. And let me call out their cooking blog, which is greasylittlebirds.com. And then finally, Victoria's possession is 9/10 of the sauce. So let us take a look at the video sent in by the Jury Duty podcast, Kimberly, and we are going to see Adam Cox's taste test. Here we go.
Hello, Lawyer Lee and friends. We're going to jump right to our taste test in just a second. But first, Lindsay and I, my beautiful co-host, wanted to say how much fun this was and lucrative if you're hungry and live in my house, at least. My husband had a favorite, but since Adam can hear us at the moment, I'll just type it and put it down there. But Lindsay also made one of the 3 finalists because it was spicier. And I have some allergies and didn't want to puff up like Veruca Salt. I may be spicy, but I can't do spicy. So thank you, Lindsay.
You're welcome, darling. Happy to do it.
I'm so excited. Adam is heating up his enchiladas right now, and then we'll bring them in. I know there's a couple of questions that people have been asking over and over again on the internet.
I've got some questions.
Yes. Then we're going to let Adam do his thing, taste, tell us what he likes and which one his favorite is. And we'll ask him some final wrap-up questions. Okay. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the single 4 dark on the Lori scale pro pickleball player who likes it when you call him Mr. Cox. Hi, Adam.
You put like 20 things into that. That is
just for you.
That is impressive that you hit
Thank
that
you.
intro like that. That was good.
I practiced that a little bit.
Yeah.
Couldn't decide if you were 3 dark or a 4 dark.
I think I was a 4. At one point, maybe a 1, but it probably kept growing to be a 4.
You know what?
Lori.
If you didn't remember her enchiladas, you're now a 5.
Right? You're done.
Well, I told you that the enchiladas were Jeff. Jeff was my that's Summer's husband. He's the one that made really good. Yeah. And then maybe Lori copied his recipe and tried to make her own and using his recipe. I asked my mom. My mom said that Lori did make enchiladas all the time, and I had no idea.
Mystery solved. But you know what? She does have a habit of taking things that belong to other people. So if she plagiarized.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
What?
Boom.
I'm
Too
awake
soon.
today.
Way
Too soon?
I'm kidding. There's never too soon for me.
Well, Lindsay has a
Yes?
couple questions first before you eat that the internet probably wants to know.
Are you ready?
Okay.
Fire away, Lindsay.
Okay, so you're on the stand. I don't want to put you mentally back there, but I have questions. So you're on the stand and
How
she's
dare
like,
you?
I'm sorry. It has
That's
to be
all right.
done though. This is what
Yeah.
everyone wants to know. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Go ahead.
Okay. She asks you if you remember the green chicken chili enchiladas, and you say no. Does she look at you? Is she looking down? Does she give you a look? Like, what happens?
Maybe she did. I can't remember, but I think she may give a confused look at me. Like, really? We didn't have this to every meal for 10 years? And I was like, no.
Guess not.
Yeah. So maybe a surprise.
Clearly
maybe
talking to Dark Adam if he does not remember. Yeah.
a strange brother, Adam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So did she look at you really like at all while you were on the stand, or was she like looking down writing?
She looked down a lot. I mean, she may have looked at me for a minute, and then when I looked at her, like in her eyes, she looked away. So I never really got to look into her eyes because I tried that twice, and she looked away.
Well, internet, we're very sorry that we don't have more on Lori's look, but
He
that's
doesn't
what it is.
remember.
He doesn't remember. I do not recall.
Yeah.
So,
I can't explain a look. I don't know.
Was she like lunging at you? Like,
No, she was very distant, just like I was very distant.
well, you were estranged. In any case,
Exactly.
facts.
do you want to start eating some enchiladas?
Okay, so does everybody know the situation with these enchiladas?
Yeah.
Yes.
You just
Yes.
eat and tell us which one you like. You can
Okay.
make
Yeah, but don't-
commentary.
I
or
won't tell you
whatever.
I won't tell you which one I'm eating right now,
Okay.
but I'm
Okay.
one of them, and whoever made this probably can recognize which one this is.
Yes,
Kimberly-
I know what it is.
Oh, I was going to ask Kimberly if you knew which one it was.
I do.
I do too.
Yeah,
That's
it's in
that's
front of
good.
you.
That's a good one.
That's a
That's
good
really good.
enchilada.
Yeah. All right, let me try this one
I'm a
now.
little jealous, frankly.
Different one.
It looks really good.
Well, that's different, but really good. Wow.
But will you remember them both?
There's one more.
Okay,
Let
third
me try-
one.
Let me try this one.
Here
Wow.
we go.
You
Oh,
guys
he's eating the
really-
spice. He's eating the spicy one right now.
You guys really know how to make green chili chicken enchiladas.
Thank you. I
These are good.
followed some really great recipes. And for the record, for those of you 3 finalists that sent your recipes in, if it said make a homemade sauce optional or use a skillet, not an oven, or a certain brand, did everything to the T as it was written to do justice to your enchiladas.
Yes,
So-
we followed those recipes to a T, made the homemade
Religiously.
whatever. Yes.
I can tell you, I like a very plain tasting stuff, and but the one that's not plain tasting, I think I like better.
Ooh.
And
Ooh.
that's different for me.
So what kind of tastes are you what tastes are you picking up, Chef Gordon?
I mean, there's cheese and chicken and tortilla, which I love all 3 of those things.
It's
I also
cheesy.
used corn tortillas for you.
Yes, which is amazing for me because gluten-free.
Gluten-free.
Yes.
Yes.
Gosh, I might have to go with.
Drum
I don't
roll.
know because I like there's 2 out of the 3 that are on the top of my mind. I might have. One is really plain, which I really like because I can taste everything that I like.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
the other one has a little bit more to it, which threw me for a loop. I'm gonna have to take another bite of it. Hold on,
Okay.
Oh no.
just to make sure. It's between 2 right now.
Just keep eating. Keep eating.
Keep eating until you decide.
I think there's one. I'm gonna take so now I know exactly. That one felt like there's more sour cream or something in it.
Yeah, actually, yeah. There was a slight. They're very similar, but those two
This
that you're.
this one doesn't really have anything else in it, but I don't taste any peppers or green chilies.
One of them was a little milder, and the other one did have a sauce that went with
Yeah.
it. I know which ones you're. I know the two that you're.
I mean, can I say it's a tie or no?
I mean, you could, and I'm sure that would make 2 people very happy, but I feel like you should pick a winner.
You gotta
a
pick
winner?
one. There can only be one.
There can only be one.
Um,
3 finalists. Good job.
Victoria.
Victoria's possession is 9/10 of the sauce. So that's your winner. That's the one that had the extra chili sauce on it.
yes.
Yes.
Yay!
Well, congratulations, Victoria.
Which surprised me because the other I like plain and like I have a 12.
He means that in the nicest way possible.
Well, no, I have the taste buds of a 12-year-old kid. So
He loves chicken nuggets.
the other one that I really liked was number 4.
That's
It was
the
and that's the
Verde.
one. That's one. Yeah, that one is amazing too. So
Well, I have just some follow-up questions for the
Okay.
lawyerly community.
I got my last. I'm just gonna finish these off.
Just finish it
because-
off.
Do
and we'll
it.
Just talk.
They're all so good. He's going to polish them off, guys. So that's the
Right.
biggest compliment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I ate some too. They were all delicious. You're going to remember these, right? These will be memorable to you.
Yes.
I
I'm
have
on the
one more
witness stand.
question.
Yes.
You're on the witness stand. I have one more question.
Okay.
Are they better than Jeff's?
I think Jeff's are the best I've had, just because maybe I'm used to it. I'm used to his.
Probably.
Because they're
but these
so
are-
plain.
Well, they're not plain. Well, I hate using the word plain because people who cook probably are like, they're not plain.
It's okay. It's okay.
I like taste. I like to taste what I like, and it's probably But I would put Jeff's probably first, only because I've had it and he's given me recipe and I've made it before. And
Oh.
so, yeah.
Well,
They're really
I'm sure
good.
people might want to steal that recipe. We'll save that for
I know.
another
I know
time.
this. There's a cream sauce with cream of mushroom soup in it. All right, Lawyer Lee, it's been a pleasure having you on our podcast, Silver Lining Podcast. We loved having you on. Thank you for letting me try these green enchilada chili recipes. Very good. I like to eat, so this is all good. Hope you guys are having a great day. I'll call Jeff, get his recipe, and everybody can try Jeff's green chili recipe. Green chili enchiladas. As far as Lori's, I'm sure that she probably tried to steal Jeff's, but made it different. I'm guessing. I just don't remember. I apologize for not remembering that, but
Don't apologize to her.
yeah, you're right. Exactly. I guess I shouldn't be apologizing to Lori. Thinking about
Don't
that.
even worry about it.
Yeah.
Well,
but
guys,
that was it. And congratulations to the winner.
thank you so much for having Adam participate in this and for letting us help make that happen. We're really excited about it. And congratulations, Victoria. You are victorious. So congratulations.
I'm licking
Riverside
my
Lake.
Adam's happy.
Nice.
He's happy.
Adam
They
is
were good.
happy. He's licking the
They
floor.
were good. When you guys scared me. You guys scared me when you said they were super spicy. I was like, oh no.
All right, so there you have it. We had clearly, let me remove that from the stage. So we clearly, the 3 recipes were all extremely good. You could see him actually licking his fork there at the end, Adam Cox. I so appreciate them and enjoying this with us and giving us something a little fun to do. Special shout out to Nancy and Jim and Carol, our 2 finalists, and that they did fantastic recipes. Don't forget about Jim and Carol's blog, greasylittlebirds.com. And we have a special note from Victoria, our winner. With Victoria's possession is 9/10 of the sauce. She sent us a few words for the broadcast. She did not want to come on, which I fully respect. And this is what she said. Thank you so much for the incredible news. I'm honored to have my green chili chicken enchiladas chosen as the winning recipe. It's especially meaningful considering the origins of this contest. I'm glad Adam enjoyed them. I'm just happy to have contributed and to see this little slice of comfort food bring people together. I followed the Lori Vallow case from the beginning and, like many, wasn't surprised by the outcome. Justice for Charles and everyone affected by such a heartbreaking situation feels long overdue, and my heart continues to go out to all those impacted by Lori's outrageous actions and beliefs. And that is, frankly, just one of the reasons that I wanted to do the contest. Sometimes in this field where we all are interested in the true crime field, it can get extremely heavy. These are very serious cases with serious consequences, both for the victims and usually for the defendants as well. And sometimes it's nice to just remember that life can be fun too, that there can be a great community to be involved in. And I so appreciate Adam Cox and his Rex, his uncle, Lori's uncle as well, and their Silver Linings podcast. And I appreciate so much the Jury Duty podcast and Kimberly and Lindsay, who made the recipe for us, made all those 3 finalist recipes. So that was super nice. I really, really appreciated that. And please be sure to check out their podcasts and subscribe there on YouTube as well as podcast platforms. So that's Silver Linings podcast and Jury Duty podcast. All right, we have a few questions I want to get to. If you have a question, if you would put question marks in front of your question, it helps me spot it in the chat. And as we're waiting, I want to say a special shout out to our mods, Marlon and mamapinks, who do great work for us. I'm so appreciative to both of them. And I see, I think I thanked or said welcomed our new members, Jamie and Kylie Wood, and also the Painted Blonde. And I also wanted to thank Lee Dundee for her super chat. Thank you a lot for that. I have a question here from Megan that I do want to answer. And she has a really good question. And I bet a lot of you are wondering about this because I was talking about in the Karen Reed case, the issue of intent and about the question of what exactly has to be proven by the Commonwealth. Let me, I'm going to share a screen with you and let you see what Massachusetts requires. This is the model jury instructions in Massachusetts. And Megan, it was a good question, so I wanted to answer that for you. Second-degree murder is what Karen Reed is charged with. Here's what the Commonwealth has to prove. Let me make that smaller so you can for sure see that. Okay. And these are the things that the jury will be instructed. And there are choice. If you look at number 2, number 1, the defendant caused the death. That's where if John O'Keefe wasn't hit by a car, then Karen Reed didn't cause the death. We can move on. Point 2, if he was hit by a car, point 2, the defendant, and there are 3 choices there. Number 1, or A, intended to kill John O'Keefe. Or, there's an or, that means they don't all have to be true. Intended to cause grievous bodily harm to John O'Keefe. Or, intended to do an act which, in the circumstances known to the defendant, a reasonable person would have known created a plain and strong likelihood that death would result. So that's different from intending the death. It's intending the act. And then knowing that there was a likelihood that death would result. It created a likelihood that it would result, and they knew that. So it's sort of a different thing, but the difference is intended to do the act as opposed to the actual intended bodily harm or intended to kill. And I know that may seem a little packed in, but I wanted you to be able to see exactly where that comes from. Let me go ahead and pull that out and we will get back to our talk. Oops. I have to first remove that from the stage. Okay, good. Hopefully we won't end up with that back and forth I often end up in when I'm trying to do the outro. All right, so let's take a look over here at your questions. Okay. Why are we saying lip readers? I hope I haven't lost sound. Okay. All right, let me move down to the end. I'm looking for question marks at the beginning because that's about my only shot at finding it. Okay. I'm going to start backwards because I went too far down. Okay. How much of the discovery is the defendant allowed to see? For example, would the text messages be available in full for the defendant to see prior to being shown to the jury? Asked Violet Desert Sky. And yes, the answer is that's what it would, they have exchanged information. In fact, the Commonwealth or the state in other states has a responsibility to hand information over that would be exculpatory, that would make it so that the defendant would not be guilty, would help the defendant get off. That is required. So yes, they've seen those text messages in advance. That has been exchanged. Jennifer wants to know if it's really legal that Bev, meaning the judge, Beverly Cannoni, rushes the defense and or cuts them off all the time, and is it okay to ask the witnesses questions? So as far as the judge rushing the defense or cutting them off, typically, I guess I haven't really seen the rushing the defense. I think she does tend to rule more often in favor of the Commonwealth and less often in favor of the defense. I feel like this time around, there's been a bit of a shift, and I think it's more even-handed, but I think still in general, I even titled one video something like Karen Reed wins a motion because it just seemed like it was never happening. But in fact, I think it's a little better this time around, but typically she does rule with the prosecution. That may be what you were asking. If I missed it, maybe let me know and I'll try again. Cheryl, was there any mention of the 5 DNAs found today? Not that I heard, and I know everyone's curious about that. I'm curious about that too. The reference was to 5 different male DNA strains being found on the shoe of John O'Keefe. It was found kind of buried in slush and ice right at the corner, or right at the curb, I should say. So his shoe was back there. Its body was in the yard. So what the Commonwealth says happened is he got hit by the car, knocked out of his shoe, and there he went. And so that is different, though. The Karen Reed's team believes the fact that the DNA of 5 males was found on that shoe suggests that a number of people participated in carrying him out and leaving him out in the yard in order to try to throw people off from the what they believe is the case, which is he was murdered inside the house, killed by someone attacking him, and maybe as well the dog, Chloe. Okay, I'm going backwards with my questions, or looking for the questions. Alaskan loss. Can Karen be tried a third time if the same thing happens again? It's possible, yes. If the judge reached the stage where the jury is telling her that there is a hung jury, they're not able to make a decision, there could be a decision to try the case again. Typically, some of the thought is at some point, the state will lose its taste for continuing to try the case over and over again. Will that happen, though? It doesn't have to. They can try the case again if they want to. That's a possibility. All right. How big is the omittance of ARCA? Well, I believe, Diane, that there's still going to be a hearing on Monday afternoon related to ARCA related, and maybe that's what you're asking me, the ARCA testimony being omitted, how much will that matter? And we'll find out some more about new testing that they've done. There's supposed to be some kind of discussion on Monday afternoon where there's a presentation from the ARCA witnesses. So we'll find out more. And unless there's been maybe a new ruling that I don't yet know about. White Mountain Witchery. Can the defense play the whole interview for the jury that the state has been clipping and introducing for context? Probably not. And actually, we saw a similar situation in the Lori Vallow-Daybell case. That's where we just did the green chili chicken enchiladas contest that you saw. In the one direction, the state is allowed to use admissions of a party. That is an exception to the hearsay rule. And in Lori Vallow-Daybell's case, she was a conspirator, so they also could use, if they wanted to, they didn't, statements of the conspirator. But in this particular case, it doesn't work the other way around. It's still hearsay if there's not an actual witness on the stand who made the statement. So in this particular case, Lori Vallow-Daybell was not on the stand, and if Karen Reed isn't on the stand, then I don't think they'll get those in. I don't think they'll be able to get the entire interview in. But we will find out whether or not they can come up with an argument that this is an exception to the hearsay rule that they can convince Judge Cannoni about. Who is Jeff? Bethany asks. I believe Jeff is a brother in the Cox family. I believe he's the person, and I think Adam is saying that Jeff originally came up with the recipe and Lori borrowed the recipe from Jeff. Camilla Juliana, do you think blood tests conducted after car accidents in general might change because of this test? Well, I think to the extent they think that they're going to use it for purposes of some kind of legal purpose, they already do the blood serum test. And in this particular case, they weren't doing it for that. I guess no one was really thinking about her as a suspect. They were just doing the test to see whether or not that was playing a role perhaps in what they were looking at, which was her mental health, and was she stable and was she okay, having just been through what she'd been through, finding her boyfriend in the snow like that. Okay, well, oh, good. I made it all the way back. Now I have to find where I was before. Okay, so, Millie Vanilli, why was Karen so open about the drinking? Does she think that somehow will make her seem innocent? Millie Vanilli, I think it's going to be a real mistake. I think that they are going to regret having done that. I do believe that it's critically important. You really should watch last night's video. I think you'd really like that, Millie Vanilli, because I talked about some of that. I personally believe that it's really important to be able to reach out to social media and to talk about the case with the community. And I think that makes a huge difference in terms of how the community perceives the case. I think it's really important. But in this case, having Karen Reed herself do it created a lot of evidence out there. It wasn't used at the first trial, but boy, is Brennan really using it this time. He's put in, he apparently had 11 clips. He's put 10 into evidence so far. I don't know how many he has, but I went through them and talked about the effect, and he's placing them in such a way that it comes right before or after really critical testimony, like going through all these statements about her drinking and then putting on the person who took the blood alcohol. And we'll probably have more blood alcohol in the morning as we talk about that in the morning on Monday when we have witnesses next. So I don't know. I think it was probably a mistake. I think that'll be something that they have to deal with. Now, they have some good arguments about it, and I will hear those as the case goes on, but I do think that it's a problem. Xana already wanting to know what new cases are coming up and what's next. I am super interested in the Corey Richens case. They took that off trial pending the Supreme Court of Utah making a decision, which they made. So I don't know. It should be set pretty soon again. I'm really interested in that. There's the Craig case out of Colorado that I find really interesting. And so those are some of the ones I'm looking at. And can we forget Donna Adelson or Brian Koberger? Those are both coming up really soon. So there is a lot going on in the true crime field all summer and then into the fall. All right. So I know I answered those two. Miss T asking me, do you think it was Karen's idea to do all the interview statements? Why would the defense team want the interviews? Miss T, I think a lot of people are going to be asking that question and second guessing the decision to go ahead and speak to the media as freely as they did. I can certainly see where lawyers should be permitted to do that. And I'll argue that lawyers should be permitted to do that, because I think the way we have the system set up, we let the prosecution talk to the media, present with usually a lot of people around them. There may be the chief of police and some other dignitaries who will talk about the investigation within the police department, and then they will give a very comprehensive statement to the court, whether sometimes it might be an indictment, whatever opening documents of the case, and we'll say a lot about what happened in the case, and then everything gets shut down, and all the public has to go on, all social media has to go on, is the words of the prosecution. And I don't think that's fair. I think the defense also needs to be able to speak, or false impressions get started and run and become big. So I think it's really important, but we can also see the very dark side of that, which is that a defendant speaking to the media can create problems for herself, because she may say things that can be used against her. And we are certainly watching it develop in this particular case. All right. So Kimberly asking me, would the jury be told the height and measurements of Karen Reed and John O'Keefe's vehicles due to the video proving she broke her taillight by backing up into John O'Keefe's vehicle? So what Kimberly is referring to is a video that I don't think has been shown in this trial, but we saw it in the last trial, and that's where Kimberly is remembering it from, where Karen Reed backs up out of the garage there at John O'Keefe's house. She's about to go looking for her boyfriend, and you see her car must be hit John O'Keefe's car, because what you see is it moves a little bit. Karen Reed says that's when her taillight got cracked, but that it was only cracked. That's all it was. And then the pieces were pulled out by Trooper Proctor in an effort to set her up, and then they were sprinkled around where the body of John O'Keefe had been just a few hours before. But this was all done after the fact to frame her. So she's saying if this vehicle backing up, will it match up with John O'Keefe's vehicle? And will they be given measurements so they can match it up? Certainly that would be a wise idea for whichever side it helps. That's a very good example of some good proof, I think, Kimberly, that somebody needs to put in, whoever it helps. Okay, looking for question marks at the beginning. There we go. Why do you have to pay to get the recipe? B. Concilio asks. You don't. It's completely free. You can go over there to my Substack. I don't even have a paid Substack. In fact, this is the only post I have on Substack. I only started a Substack because I was thinking about starting a true crime newsletter, but I haven't done that yet. So what you have is completely free access to all of these recipes. I do have to say, I don't recommend Imelda's. So you'll have to do that one at your own risk. But the other 15 sounded fantastic, every last one of them. And they're free. You can go over there and get them. And if I get the recipe from Jeff that Adam told us he would send us, I'll put that in a post so you can see what that is, and you can try that and let us know what you think. All right. Tool Monkey, if you were the district attorney, would you have brought this second case? You know, I don't know that I can put myself in those shoes, but let me tell you what I perceive. These are parties who have a lot of animosity toward each other, and it has grown up to encompass the lawyers. As for many years, I've done litigation, but for the last years, I've helped people solve their litigation with mediation. So let's get it resolved before you have to go to trial. And this is such a big problem because lawyers get involved and they have all these feelings and emotions about it, and they're angry at each other, and it's difficult for them to resolve things. That is the kind of thing that happens when the whole system is set up for this side wants one thing and this side says the opposite, and then whoever the decision maker is looks at that and figures out what the answer would be, whether it be the judge or the jury. So, I think that there is a lot of animosity between the two sides. So I think that the chances that they were going to bring this again were very, very high. And I think that makes it more likely a third case would happen if it had to. Hopefully that won't be the case. Hopefully this will be the one that resolves it and there won't be any issues like that. All right. Well, special shout out to our super chats. And I want to say a special thank you to Jeremy Kelly for gifting 50 Lawyer League memberships. I will see you all on Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We will be covering day 5 of the Karen Reed trial, and I will see you then.